If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. So let's waste no time. Let's get to it. Story number 1, the pros and cons of medical practice. There's a lot of pros and cons. Some doctors and scientists may be looking to put chips in people to monitor cancer tumors. At the moment, the research is limited because they don't want to scar tissues or cause immune system rejection. But this headline cites some of the goals that medical professionals are focusing on for the future. And some people don't agree or like these goals. A story in Vice says that women are being over-medicated compared to men due to lack of women involved in clinical trials. This story is still developing, and as you can see, story number 1 crept in this week because even as medical professionals face opposition with COVID-19, they're still making advancements, and the key word is medical practice. They're still practicing in their field. Some are still trying to get a grasp. That's what story number 1 crept in this week. Story number 2. It may be in the hands of the 1% to create jobs. That's as usual. Amazon, one of the world's biggest employers, is looking to hire new people in Dallas, Detroit, Denver, New York, Phoenix, and San Diego. The jobs will mainly be tech jobs, but it's good to know somebody in town will probably still be hiring, and they're probably in the 1% as the other 99% continues to hang on for their dear life in this COVID-19 saga. Another headline, COVID-19 has brought a 60.5% drop in tourism in Florida. That's a lot of money lost. So keep an eye on story number 2. It crept in this week because it has a lot to do with jobs and who could be creating those jobs. And right now, the finger is pointing towards the rich to start spending some of that money that is needed inside of the economy. Story number 3. Depression and poor mental health is running wild across the United States, and it could be being ignored. Vice has an interesting article highlighting the growing concern of depression across not only the United States but across the world. The article mainly focuses on depression during the pandemic, but also highlights an issue that could be overlooked, which is depression and mental health. It's often overlooked, but a lot of people suffer with it. A 20-year-old Indiana woman is being charged for using a treadmill and a lighter to harm a baby girl. The woman claims that she was depressed and that the sound of the baby crying triggered her rage. So that's a very sad story. It actually goes in detail about how she tortured this child by using a treadmill and putting a lighter to the child. So this is a very scary story. A McDonald's customer tried to get into the kitchen and was beaten with a burger spatula by an employee who apparently was fed up with the customer. It's another scary story that has a lot to do with just mental health and what is happening inside of this issue. High blood pressure is what could cause people to snap. CDC reports that suicide is still a concern among young adults. Apparently there was a 25% rise in those considering suicide in June. So story number 3, that's why I crept into the top 8 this week. It has a lot to do with mental health, suicide, and finding some love for yourself. Getting in the mirror and telling yourself that you can do it. You can be a somebody. That's why story number 3 made it in this week. Story number 4. Headlines that could be overlooked. Here we go. U.S. has a surge in home construction for 3 straight months. People may be overlooking that. That's progress. Some good news. Iran is speculated to have placed bounties on U.S. troops, according to U.S. intelligence. That's another story to keep an eye on that may be being overlooked with all the COVID-19 saga going on. Prisons in Asia are filling up with women. A big percentage of these women are victims of drug wars. You will also find similar stories happening in the United States that could be overlooked. Plastic pollution is still an issue. Plastic has been found in some highly consumed seafoods. Keep an eye on this story. There is still tensions in the Middle East after U.S. troops were attacked in eastern Syria. So there are still things going on in the Middle East. A birthday party in Ohio was interrupted by gunfire, killing an 8-year-old girl. The growing concern of the misuse of guns in America remains in the headlines and could be being overlooked because of COVID-19. Here's some more stories. Iranian fuel from a designated foreign terrorist organization was headed for Venezuela, but was reportedly disrupted by the Justice Department. That's another story that could be overlooked because of COVID-19. Without internet access, rural communities have some hard decisions to make about returning to school. Another headline. CDC reports that children are eating more fast food, and this could be a problem. Last headline that could be overlooked in all the COVID-19 stories. Grocery store workers feel they're not being given credit, the credit that they deserve for serving inside of all the COVID-19 craziness. So they've been still going to work, and some of them still have been coming up sick, but it's been out of the news. It hasn't been heavily reported. The article in the Washington Post says that they don't feel they're being treated like human beings. These are some stories that you need to check out that could be being overlooked inside as COVID-19 dominates the headlines. Well, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back with the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it in. Don't go anywhere. You're the media with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. If you want to check out the stories that almost made it in or did make it in, go to our Twitter feed on our website. Check out everything. All of the sources are there. And go to the website. It's method8inc.com. Method8inc.com, where you can buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. So let's waste no time. Bananas! Let's get to it. Story number 5. COVID-19 is testing the willpower of human beings in a big way. WHO says that young people, that's the World Health Organization, says that young people who don't know they are infected are carrying and spreading COVID-19. The story is still developing. Eviction fears are looming, but the President Trump, has said repeatedly in one article that his administration will be stopping evictions in the middle of economic woes during the COVID-19 crisis. Some residents in Denmark, they want to sue their government for not taking action. So it's good to see that at least the Trump administration is trying to just throw some water on this fire. After trying to enforce social distancing guidelines, 3 people were arrested after a 17-year-old Chili's hostess was attacked. That's not good news, as a lot of people's willpower is being tested in the COVID-19 saga. 79 teachers have reportedly either retired or resigned due to fears of COVID-19 spreading in schools. Another big headline. CDC is reporting a rise in COVID-19 among children. And last but not least, in the willpower testing of the confidence of testing everyone's willpower, a pastor in Chicago has gone on the record voicing concerns about $66 million in coronavirus aid at hospitals only being spent on 38 patients. He feels that the wasted money could have gone to Chicago's neglected neighborhoods. That's a big headline. That's why story number 5 made it in this week. Story number 6 is the rise in moving everything online limited. That means the movement to going online, is it limited? Big question. British store chain Marks and Spencer is set to cut 7,000 jobs. The company cites advances in technology and a downward swing in revenue. Most stores are shifting to online commerce, but how much can the online market take with an increase in computer use and online activity? Online demand can only serve so many people and businesses. At least that's what's believed. With the spike in moving everything online, some are left wondering is how big can the internet actually get? That's a lot of bandwidth, a lot of circuits, a lot of silicon, and a lot of circuit boards. That's why story number 6 made it in this week. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines in developing news stories that made it in this week. The China book against the U.S. is getting bigger. Big headline. A former CIA officer has been arrested and charged with spying for China. Federal prosecutors have accused Alexander Yuk Ching Ma with handing over defense secrets to China. He also was handing over key information about CIA personnel and tradecraft. He was handing all this stuff over to the Chinese intelligence. The article says that he was given money in return. This story homes in on a growing concern about U.S. and China relations. The relationship doesn't, the only thing that seems to be keeping this relationship alive is trade, and I'll get to that in a second. China is accusing the U.S. of bullying because of sanctions against Huawei. The sanctions could put a halt to the advancement of Chinese 5G technology, which they were making big strides in. A BBC report says that Trump is throwing cash at U.S. firms moving from China. So trying to get that manufacturing and those businesses back in the United States, but he's throwing out the dollars. Big headline, big developing story. The Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, feels that China poses a greater threat to national security than any other nation, which includes election interference. So he's saying that China poses a threat more than any other nation, and this includes the threat of election interference. The article by Fox News goes in detail about Russian interference in the last election and how China may be seeking to oust Trump, unlike Russia, who they say was responsible for getting him elected. This story is still developing. And the last headline inside of story number 7 is trade may be, as stated, the only thing that is keeping U.S. and China relationship, the U.S. and China relationship alive. So keep an eye on story number 7. I want to kind of emphasize that because it's very unique on how some things can stir the pot, but some things that people may have overlooked, like when the Trump was trying to be hard on trade policies. But at the moment, that's the only thing that seems to be keeping the relationship alive, especially when it comes to economists saying that we may want to get along with China. So keep an eye on story number 7. That's why I made it to the top 2 this week. Story number 8 in the top international headline and developing news story that made it in this week. Who can govern? Who can lead the country through COVID-19? That's a big question. An article in Vox criticizing the Republican Party's lack of ability to govern may be a centerpiece to which party is actually trying to get things done in Washington. The article may be one-sided, but it could lead into another big discussion as we head into another big election. This adds to the growing concern that taxpayers have when it comes to certainty and confidence in government, especially government handling taxpayer dollars. The Postal Service has been in multiple headlines, especially after Nancy Pelosi had to call lawmakers back to stop Postal Service changes. There was a lot of attention on mail-in ballots, so this remains a top concern about the Trump administration trying to change some things around, and this story is just heating up. Some feel that Joe Biden could be dodging questions from the press as a strategic move by the Democrats to to avoid him from being criticized, as some believe that he has lost some of his cognitive senses over the years, especially after he had some surgeries. So that's why Sternum Raid is such a big story this week. Former NYPD Lieutenant Darren Porcher says that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris don't seem to have a plan to curb violence in erupting and predominantly Democrat-run communities. So this is another big headline centering around who is actually going to be able to get something done and who's actually getting things done and who can lead us through the COVID-19 craziness. Newt Gingrich predicts a collapse of the Joe Biden-Harris election ticket. So that's another big headline. Is it fair for the government to regulate employees at American companies for wearing political attire? This remains a new topic after Trump took to Twitter calling for a boycott on Akron, Ohio's base Goodyears. This is after employees were banned from wearing MAGA hats at work. So this is another big headline inside of Sternum Raid. The SEC enforcement of insider trading is at its lowest point in decades, according to an NPR headline. The last headline that made it in that shines light on who can govern and who can lead this country through COVID-19, whether it be the Democrats, Trump, Joe Biden, the Republicans. There's a lot of questions inside of story number 8, but with all these headlines, it kind of makes you wonder is what is actually happening on the political stage. But Bernie Sanders says in a CNN video that Trump is crazy, not stupid, for his recent stance in the United States Postal Service mail-in ballot issue. So there's a lot going on inside of story number 8, but it remains a key talking point because some citizens are suffering. Some of them are losing money. Some of them don't have any money at all. Some of them are looking for a place to stay, and they're looking for leadership inside of as we battle COVID-19. That's why Sternum Raid is so big. Well, those are our top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I hope you got something out of the program. I did. Well, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. And as usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines, the media. You deserve all the credit. I'm just a mediator. And if you want to show some support, it doesn't take much. All you have to do is visit our website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or just sponsor a program. I am going to take a break, read over 200 or more stories again next week, and come back again with the top 8 next Sunday. I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Have a good week, everybody. Stay safe. Peace.
If you need help, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.